Okay, so you got my interest on the last one. Give me an example because there's a lot of stuff going on in technology all the time. There's
Yes.
artificial intelligence that's coming around. There's a
Yes.
lot of companies that they have a system they were on 10 years ago, but they need to move and evolve. So, what does the digital transformation mean? And how can entrepreneurs know whether they need a digital transformation or not?
Yeah, sure. It's definitely an iterative thing. And I think I would debate. I don't think there are many organizations that don't need to think about their digital transformation. I think some organizations more than others. So the context for us is the majority of our customers are using Office 365 as a productivity suite. And then there's a lot of elements in the way that is used that is just not optimal. So they're paying for it, but there's a myriad of opportunities for them to see a better return on what they're already paying for. So just within the Office 365 suite, take for instance Microsoft To Do, which is a simple example. It's a simple to-do list and task tracking toolset, or Microsoft Planner, which is in Office 365, which is a simple project management toolset. So sometimes you go into an organization, they're paying for the licensing for that, but they're not using it. And the impact that can have on their productivity is, so these are hygiene digital transformation pieces that I'm talking about. Like simple thing is as well, if you look now at what happened during the pandemic, a lot of people are working remotely. So what happened is organizations got into the habit of just doing back-to-back meetings without a break, literally hour after hour. And it's clear the data shows that that drives disengagement. It drives burnout. So you can simply change the default in a meeting. So if I send you a calendar invite from my calendar, it defaults to 50 minutes,
Yeah.
not an hour. So you got 10 minutes, go grab a coffee, go to the restroom. So those are some of the hygiene digital transformation elements. And then when you look at productivity and automation, tell us about your most important time of the month and what some of those things are that happen in that most important time of the month. Or tell us what are some of the most important tasks that your sales team perform. So we'll go and speak to some people in the sales team and say, okay, fine, how are you doing this? 9 times out of 10, we find a myriad of opportunities to automate it and make them more productive. Microsoft have got a tool set called Power Platform, which has got Power Automate. It's got Power BI that's plugged into it. And so there are a myriad of productivity and automation opportunities. So now if you look, there's a data set called Microsoft Graph where how a company uses Office 365, all of that is tracked in
Mm.
Microsoft Graph. So when you look at Microsoft's AI toolset, Copilot is pulling data directly from Microsoft Graph, finding opportunities to leverage that large language model and that AI technology to make you more productive. The dynamic of AI is it's not just going to happen on its own. And there's some hygiene things you need to get right in your organization to be able to make the most of that. One being user adoption. And a big part of user adoption is allowing your people to embrace the technology and actually do some training and get up to speed on how to use it. So those, and then we'll do a roadmap. We'll do a SWOT with our customers. What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? What are your key objectives? And what of the technologies we're aware of and that you're already using can solve some of the business challenges and can help you achieve some of those business objectives?
Is it fair, Orrin, to say companies use you as a fractional IT department?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe I totally understand what you just described. And the reason why I think I totally understand it is it's something that we've referred to as a tech ops gap, where the tech ops gap is the gap between the technology that's available and a person in operations who's on the front line actually using that technology and optimizing its use. So it's not that more technology needs to be added. No more technology often needs to be added. It's the use of the existing technology first. And it sounds like that tech ops gap, as I would define it, is precisely where companies come in and hire you, where you're finding out what is it that are your business challenges, and let me show you what technology you already have that can automate opportunities and increase your productivity that may solve those business challenges. It's been at your fingertips. You just haven't optimized how you're using the tech available to you. How accurate is my understanding of what you do?
I'm going to get a transcription of this and we're going to use some of that in our marketing material. No, I love the way you've summed that. That's exactly it, because you don't need to spend more. It's just about using what you have. And then once you reach a certain level, maybe there are more technologies you want to bring in, but you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. So just think about this. If you just look at the Microsoft technology stack, the rate at which Microsoft releases new features and new tools, as a Microsoft focused technology company, we have to invest heavily just to stay up to speed with that. So I cannot imagine if you're a consulting business or a financial services business or a manufacturing company, how do you keep up to date with that? That's just using the technology that comes out in the latest release in itself. And there is some adoption and change management and training just in that space that can have a really big space. But you summed it up perfectly, Rich.
Okay, wonderful. And you had mentioned earlier in the conversation that there were about 20,000 MSPs. And
Yes.
now that I understand what it is you do, and you're saying, hey, there are like 20,000 people and companies that do what we do. What exactly is your differentiator? Why would someone pluck you out of the 20,000 and say, Orrin and his company, that's the one?
Yeah. So there's a piece of the state of this industry, which is because there's so many MSPs and it is so competitive, there is a consolidation at play right now. Many of the MSPs that we're looking at, Rich, are struggling to grow organically. And it's just a function of the maturity of the industry. It's a function of how red the ocean is. So again, when I mentioned the story earlier, so a big part of our growth strategy is acquisitive growth as well. So we acquired 3 businesses last year, and it's a major lever so we intend, our goal is to be one of the best in class MSP platforms in the US. That is our BHAG.
Orrin, what's the so what to me? Like I'm saying, why would I want to pick you? And you're saying, hey,
Yeah.
we consolidate. And I'm almost going, oh, so what? So what? So why is that to my benefit to work with you? Because you consolidate.
So I'll start there and then I'll go to the real answer to your questions. What we have been able to do with our accelerated growth by leveraging both organic growth and acquisitive growth is we've been able to make investments we could not afford to make at the size that we were. And if I look at the last 3 hires we did, if I'd not embarked on the acquisitive growth and not achieved the economies of scale, there is no way as we could have hired these people. So I think out of economies of scale, we're able to make investments that we could not make before. That's the answer on the acquisitive growth, but I don't think that's going to make us close deals or customers choose us. Although I know it's a reality. It needs to turn into real differentiated value for our customers. So during that sort of period of late 2019, early 2020, we deeply looked at our differentiation and said, why will customers choose us? We got great service levels. We hire great people. We've got amazing response times, resolution times. If you phone our service desk, since 2007, we haven't had a hold time average of less than 10 seconds. How many customers do you think have complimented me on that?
Few.
Not one. In 16 years, I never got a compliment for that. And I'm like, damn. So, the thing that we think differentiated is our customers don't care. We're one of the most certified Microsoft partners globally in our space. And nobody ever said, wow, those are the best. Because, if I were to say so a lot of those elements are hygiene elements. That's to the game. We need to be great at security. We need to be great at the managed services. We need to be great with our service levels. That doesn't differentiate us. It just gets us a ticket to the game. I think the one thing that differentiates us the most right now is our innovate managed service, where we literally go in and we'll say, Rich, depending on the size of the company, and I'll just use an easy number as an example, for a $5,000 a month managed service, okay, we will find $60,000 worth of ROI in a 12-month period. And if we don't, we carry on working until we do. And we've got different ways of finding that ROI. So this is the one way that I believe we are differentiating ourselves. There are MSPs that do bits and pieces of this, but I have not come across another one that has packaged their service in this way. And the idea is that we're trying to de-risk it for the customer because they've got to approve the ROI. And if they don't, you will debate it, obviously, if we disagree with them. But so far, we've been able to hit that ROI.
Let me just validate that. I think what you just said is one of the differentiators is this innovate managed service, which you defined as, hey, if a company gives me $5,000, I'm going to promise them back $60,000 in value over the course of the next year. And if we don't hit that via their sign off, not out what we believe to hit, but what they believe we hit, we're going to keep working until we do hit. Did I hear that right?
That's right. It's $5,000 a month. They pay us $5,000 a month.
So the de-risking is, if you pay us 5,000, we're going to save you a month, which is 60,000 a year. Basically, if you pay us 60,000 a year, we're going to find at least 60,000 a year that we're going to save you. Therefore, it's going to cost you nothing, worst case scenario.
And you keep that in perpetuity. And the renewal, we need to fund it again.
Fascinating. John, it sounds like the ultimate of bets. If you and I were to go to Las Vegas and we were to say, hey, let's put $5,000 down on black on the roulette table.
Because we've never done that
We're
before.
going to do that. We're going to do that 12 times. And the guarantee from the dealer is, if you don't actually at least break even on the 5,000, we're going to keep spinning until we hit black at least 12 times. Then we're going to you don't owe us anything. And then you can keep spinning and get a bunch of freebies for years in advance. I would put that money down in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but you know why he does, Rich, right? And this is my hypothesis, Orrin. Well, you articulated, Rich, the tech op gaps. There are so many. Orrin gave us like a few examples, but I can just think about our own companies and the difference between how we could be more efficient, but we're not. That's why I think Orrin and his team are so confident they can give you a return on investment, because these tech op gaps exist in abundance.
Yeah.
And they're very easy for Orrin and his team to go shoot down and help your company be more effective. Orrin?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. 100%
Or what
right.
would be the one thing, as we look to close out our conversation here? Can you leave us with one thing that every company could pretty much look at to either automate or optimize their productivity? That's just, everybody could probably use this.
So the one example I gave, I think it's so easy to do, literally with a group policy. You could literally go in and change the default meeting time across the business. And someone's going to sit, configure it, and now it's done in your culture forever. So people it is crazy how those back-to-back meetings just burn people out. And then the second thing I would do is look wherever in your business, so sometimes you'll see there'll be someone either in the account exec team or the sales team or the finance team or the HR team that's an Excel whiz, and they love, and they go and they're playing with, they're doing these big Excel consolidated reports every month. That's generally an automation field day. Like you can there's so many automation opportunities where those big Excel reports are being compiled, whether it's leveraging Power BI or whether it's leveraging Power Automate. There are just a myriad of opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
Or where can our guests learn more?
Probably to get hold of me on LinkedIn is probably the best, or our website is netsurit.com.
Okay, netsurit.com. We'll make sure to put that in the description. And the LinkedIn is Orrin Klopper. Is the LinkedIn profile. It's ORRINKLOPPER on LinkedIn. Orrin, again, like Rich said, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Stay tuned as John and Rich unpack today's conversation.
When I mentioned Vegas, does it make you thirsty to go to Vegas?
It makes me shiver. The amount of times that you and I walked into a casino, and we're like, let's just go one time, one bet, let's put money on black. Now, it wasn't 5,000 in all fairness, but those were some good old times, some silly bets, because the dealer certainly did not give us the ROI investments that Orrin gives his groups. And again, I really love that. I think think about it. You're an entrepreneur. You could easily, you never take the time to do it, unfortunately. But if you're listening to this right now, think about the 3 or 4 things that your team could automate and save themselves so much time just with technology or improvements they could use. If you had asked me the question, Rich, what do I think the single biggest opportunity is in tech and ops and the gap? It's email management. People are just drowning in email. So I spent a lot of time myself in just really perfecting email management, to not touch emails multiple times.
That's where you use Stainbox. You could be a walking commercial for Stainbox.
Yeah, I pretty much am. I religiously use it. I never look at an email twice. It doesn't just stay in my inbox. I do something with it unless I plan it to come back. But that's just one tool. But within Microsoft Outlook or Google, there's so many other tools that you could use to have proper management of the inflow, because as we know from back to Stephen Covey, Big Rock, Small Rock, gravel, email can be gravel and it can consume you, and technology is supposed to help you, actually drowns you. And so that's the one piece I think every company in the world needs to be running sessions with their team, with their tech group, on how to more efficiently use email. A lot of companies don't even use email anymore. They use the chat features like Slack or Google Chat or something like that to say, if you have to send an email internally, don't use email. You got to use its different mechanisms. We just don't want to drown our team with email. But that's just one thought that comes to mind. Orrin mentioned about a dozen other ones I think are really interesting. What would you say? Is there one that comes to mind for you?
Efficiency with technology?
Yeah, the tech op gap that most companies suffer from.
Oh gosh. I think we currently suffer from it. It can be difficult we've got 360 franchise owners ish. We've got 1,200 non-painting associates. We've got close to 90 corporate staff members. And we have the Microsoft technology stack. And it can be difficult getting into optimize 360 businesses use and optimization for productivity and automating the use of that. So I'd say we currently do. And I think he's dead on the use of spreadsheets. I think spreadsheets are way overused and they can be manually populated versus automated.
Yep.
I think that, again, not to just repeat what he said, but the calendaring is a big one. It's something that I learned a couple of years ago is scheduling 45-minute meetings instead of an hour.
Yep.
And one of the things I learned, John, was I can't schedule it, say, from 2 to 2:45. Because when I schedule it from 2 to 2:45, everybody knows it's a false ceiling, and we take it right up to 3 o'clock.
Yep.
What I started doing is I start scheduling meetings at 2:15 to 3. Because nobody expects you on between 2 and 2:15. The meeting starts at 2:15, you get on at 2:15. And then we take it up to the top of the hour. And then people have other meetings. And then I can grab a 15-minute break. And whether it be grabbing a drink of water, checking an email, just clearing my head. So I think there's something really to the two things that he brought up. I think immediately I can see where we could optimize those in our business.
Certainly, that is a calendar hack for sure. And I still don't do that, and I should, which is the start your meetings at 15 past the hour to end on the hour.
Yeah.
That's how you really get that 15 minutes back. Because to your point, I do set 15-minute meetings, but inevitably it goes an hour. And it's an artificial ceiling, like you said. What I loved about Orrin in this conversation is it wasn't until the near end we got to actually the stuff that he actually does as a business. Here's an entrepreneur that's grown his business for over 30 years. He's lived through all these different business cycles. And when asking him, what's the first thing that you've learned? It was cash. And that's near and dear to my heart, as it's one of the biggest lessons I learned, how much cash is so important to the lifeblood of the business. And he talked about some businesses really good at growing and making cash, but a lot of businesses are really good at growing themselves poor too, due to the lack of cash flow. So that was one we didn't maybe come back to a lot, but I thought it was very telling that in order to grow a business like he has to 300-400 employees, to be able to make acquisitions, to be able to do that, you got to build your own capital. You got to build your own capital, which is the oxygen for your growth. That's near and dear to my heart. And that hit me pretty hard. And I know on the reverse side, number 2 is near and dear to your heart. So people-centric culture. I mean, that's exactly where I'm sure you wanted to go most of the conversation as well, because that's really touching for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what he said about a differentiator, they thought it might be their service. It is superior service. He thought it might be their people, their response time. And somebody being on hold no longer than 10 seconds. That is amazing. The most certified, I thought it was funny. He says, nobody said, you guys are the best. I want to work with a most certified company. He's right. Nobody says that. What's interesting, though, is as soon as any of those things falter, we recognize that in the companies that we work with. Oh, their service isn't great. Oh, their people aren't great. Oh, I'm on hold way too long. These people, I don't even know where they got their certifications. I'm not even sure they know what they're talking about. It's just fascinating to me that just as a society, when we work with companies, some of the very things that are very tricky to achieve, we consider just to be table stakes.
Yeah.
So for him to have this innovate managed service piece, that is the $5,000 per month, and that's the differentiator. I think it's very smart of him because he's right. Unfortunately, these other things aren't differentiators. What they are is something to criticize often in a company if they don't have it.
Yeah. And I would say you asked the question, what's your differentiator to the consumer, to the business that's going to hire Orrin's company? But really, he displayed his differentiator as a company through this conversation. The fact he's having this conversation with us, the fact that he talks about people-centric culture and what that means about hiring, firing, and promoting, how that creates your culture, the fact that he does use the top grading method to bring talent to his business, The fact that he does acquire companies, which will now enable his company to scale so we can hire better people to come into his business. I'm sure his team is fairly dynamic. The one that really I thought was great and something that I really advocate for is when you strategic plan throughout the entire organization. You have full transparency of where everybody's going, where this business is going. Not a lot of entrepreneurs do that. They have a strategic plan in there, they have an idea where they want to go or whatever, and everybody's guessing along the way. But when you really get everybody involved in the strategic plan, and then you execute it, you actually hit it, or you start looking, you start moving the direction of hitting the BHAG of your business, people buy in, and they buy in for the long haul.